Hey everyone, this is Adam Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Today we are going to continue our exploration of the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that is coming up in April of 2024. Yesterday we started off by looking at several historical examples that nicely illustrate the Jupiter-Uranus dynamic. So you might want to start with that one, but you don't have to. Today we will be looking at the Jupiter-Uranus dynamic from several more angles, including some personal stories and examples that I've seen from my client practice. But the purpose of this is to help us prepare for what is arguably the biggest transit of the year ahead and have some fun with it. So that is our goal for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe, share your comments and reflections. If you have a Jupiter-Uranus dynamic in your birth chart, or you've had Uranus transit your natal Jupiter and you have a good story to share, feel free to use the hashtag grabbed or email us your story, grabbed@nightlightastrology.com. Don't share anything that you don't want us using in a future storytelling episode. You can find a transcript of today's talk, as always, on the website, nightlightastrology.com. And as you guys know, we are pushing toward our goal of 1,777 backers in our 10th annual Kickstarter campaign. We were trying to get there by New Year's Eve. As of today, we have 327 backers at the time that I'm recording this intro, which means we still need 1,450 by New Year's Eve. That is a lot of backers that we still need the support of. And it would be awesome if you haven't donated already, if you'd consider supporting us. A big thank you to those who have. You can find a link to the Kickstarter at the top of the comments section, pinned to the top or in the description of this video. And when you go over there, pick up a reward. We've got readings. There's all sorts of exclusive lectures and lecture series. And we have class passes that you can get 50% off any of my online programs. You can get class passes, 2, 3, 4 class passes. The savings goes up when you get bigger bundles. You can use them anytime. They don't expire. You can transfer them. So they're really good deals. My book is also available through the Kickstarter. So lots of good things. As you guys know, I've been sharing something of my values as an astrologer with you every day as a way of knowing what goes into this channel and therefore what you're supporting when you pitch into the Kickstarter. Today, I want to talk about 3 beliefs that I have about success in astrology. I'm not some guru on success in astrology. Broadly speaking, what I mean is how do I define success in my own career as an astrologer? Through the school, through clients, through creative content 5 days a week on YouTube. What are my goals, or how do I orient myself, with respect to my career and how I define success in my career? Number 1 is that for me, success is rooted in a heart-centered approach, not a success-centered approach. In other words, I'm a human being. Of course, I want to be successful, but I've learned that wanting success it's like putting the cart before the horse. What I really want, and what I've learned, and what I've really, the most valuable thing I've learned from all of my very spiritual practices and experiences in life, is that success is a byproduct of loving what you do. If you love what you do and you just keep doing what you love, and you come from the heart in doing what you love, the people that I've noticed, or that I would say are successful, first and foremost, are loving what they do and coming from the heart in the way that they do it. And I think that if I do that, I feel successful. And that's more important than if I have the world's biggest YouTube channel, or how my numbers compare to any other YouTube channel numbers, or, how many clients I have, or how many students I have, or whatever. Or if I win awards at, conferences, or, that kind of thing. To me, the measure of my success is, first and foremost, like on a daily basis, did I have a heart-centered conversation with a client? Did I teach from the heart in my classes? And did I create content that came from my heart? It's like my kids, they come up and they show me their artwork. They're so excited. Look at what I made, Yes, that's beautiful. That's what I'm looking for. Look at what I made, guys. Here's my Jupiter-Uranus video today. Look at what I made. Do you like it? Because if I'm super excited and I love, and I've poured love and enthusiasm into what I've made, and other people experience something of that and they enjoy it, and it sparks heart-to-heart connections over a topic like astrology that I love, that's my success. And I am very content for the numbers or the growth or whatever in any other area to come as it comes, so long as that part isn't broken, right? Because that's the part where I actually enjoy what I do, and that's the best reward, you know? Anyway, so that's the first principle of success in my practice. Am I coming from the heart today? It's not every day. Like some days are just dingers, but am I coming from the heart? Did I create from the heart as a teacher, as a reader, as a content creator? If so, that's my success. Let the rest take care of itself on its own. 2, success is rooted in cooperation, not competition. I cannot sit back and look at and compare myself to how other astrologers are doing or how successful they are, how many likes or subscribers they have, there's lots of astrologers I really love. But I have learned fundamentally that my ego gets up to no good, and it will affect the content. It'll affect the classes. It'll affect anything I do if I start focusing on what other people are doing or wishing that I was somewhere or someone that I'm not. So I have a kind of, I don't know, it's so cheesy, but I have that mindset that there's enough for everybody. There's enough for there to be many talented, creative people. And there's enough people out there that the people who like my work, who want to study with me, who want to get readings with me, who want to subscribe to my channel, they will, so long as I come from the heart and not make it about success, but make it about creativity and enthusiasm for what I'm doing. And then I also have to make sure that I'm not looking around trying to figure out how I compare to other people. It's really important. I have to keep that out because it's any time that I've ever done it, it's really toxic. Number 3 is success is rooted in whether or not you help others to be successful. I used to love the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan, and I loved how he really made, as he progressed in his career, he just made like all the players around him better. Success for me, it fundamentally is, do other people come into contact with me as an astrologer on whatever level, client, student, audience, listening to the content, whatever, do they feel like their astrological game has been elevated? Do you feel like you learned something about astrology? Do you feel like you got something of creative value? Were you interested? Did you have fun listening to it? Was it entertaining? Did it lift you up? For students, did you feel like you had an ally? Did you feel like you had a program that built you up and gave you confidence? Did you feel that, my students that's why I want to do the donation-based clinic with the success of the Kickstarter. Let's build up more astrologers. Because when fundamentally the coolest people in the world are people who love what they do. And if you come into contact with them, it's like they're willing to share it. They want to just pour it out and be like, and you can love astrology, and you can love astrology, and you get love of astrology. Like Oprah. Anyway, I want the love that I have for astrology to be contagious, and I want other people to share in the feeling of being empowered through this knowledge, that you can love it, that you can be good at it, that you can have support, that you have an ally, that you have a friend, that you have a resource to go to in the astrological world. If I'm doing that well, then that to me means I'm finding some success. So those are the values that go into it. Again, thank you so much for listening and letting me talk to you about this channel and asking you for your support. Help us get to 1,777 backers by New Year's. Link is at the top of the comment section or in the description of this video. Pick up a reward. We so appreciate you, and I hope you will enjoy today's video, part 2 on Jupiter-Uranus. Thanks, everyone. All right, so today we are continuing our exploration of the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that is happening in April of 2024. We're talking about why this is arguably the biggest transit of the next year. Yesterday, we began by talking about some of the historical examples of Jupiter-Uranus and Taurus, what made them special, and some of the ways that we can look at history for an understanding of the Jupiter-Uranus archetype, which today we are going to explore from a more personal standpoint. As you guys know, on my channel, mostly I focus on the archetypes as vehicles for personal growth and development. I am not much of a mundane astrologer. So occasionally I do like to pluck events from historical timelines as a way of illustrating the archetypes, which I find very useful. But I have no big predictions to make about, what's going to happen collectively, historically, politically, that kind of thing with this transit, other than to say that some interesting things have certainly coincided with previous Jupiter-Uranus transits. So, get out your popcorn, I guess. But when it comes to the personal level of this transit, today what I want to do is I want to talk about 3 major Jupiter-Uranus themes. Then I want to talk about 3 things that will make the transit pop in your natal chart. Because some people are going to hear about this transit, they're going to go, "Oh my God, it's like I don't know, it's like a lottery ticket you're hoping is going to, is going to win big because it's a transit that gets people sparkly-eyed." However, this is not going to affect everyone in the same way. And there are 3 things that you can watch for in your chart that will help you, kind of identify whether or not it's likely to make a really big splash in your own life. So I'll go over some of those things. Now, that doesn't mean that if you don't have one of these things, that nothing is going to happen. It just means that there are like gradations, or there are certain considerations that we take into account in order to determine how loud or how bright the transit might be for each individual person. So I'll go over some of those today. And then I want to tell you 5 stories from my client practice that I dug up in order to illustrate what happens when transiting Uranus makes an aspect to natal Jupiter, which will express in terms of the exact same archetypal qualities that we're going to discuss at the beginning of today's talk. These client stories are there are a lot more that I could have shared, and I will also try to most of the client stories that I chose, let's just put it this way, are very, very positive, sort of loud and bright examples. But I do that not to guarantee that that kind of thing is going to happen to every person, but to illustrate what it's like when you have a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that's speaking very loudly and in some of the most dramatic and obvious archetypal ways that astrologers talk about. So we'll get on to that at the end. So anyway, that's what we're doing today. Let's go. Let's start with 3 major Jupiter-Uranus themes. Now, actually, before I do that, we should let's go ahead and we'll put the real-time clock up on the screen. And I have highlighted here the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Taurus on April 20th of 2024. If you take the 3-degree engagement range that ancient astrologers used, you'll take this to about the beginning of April and into about the middle of May as the period of time in which the transit will be sort of loudest. So, let's just say April and May are definitely riding on the wave of this archetypal combination. So what are these themes? The number 1 theme, and these are in no order, like this is the most powerful or the most common or something. They're just 3 themes in general. Number 1 on my list is the turning of the tide or breaking of the dawn. I use the example of The Lord of the Rings, where, if you've ever seen the movie, there's this moment where the odds are stacked against the allies of Middle Earth, and the orcs are attacking in Helm's Deep, this fortress that they're in, and it looks pretty hopeless. And Gandalf shows up as the dawn is breaking, and he comes pouring over the hill with all of these riders, and they come down, and the tide of the battle turns. That is a very Jupiter-Uranus moment, insofar as Jupiter-Uranus conjunctions seem to, it's funny because one of the things that happens is we may not even realize that we're in the midst of some kind of dark night of the soul, or we might not feel as though we're in the midst of a battle because it's so mundane. It's like the most mundane battle we face is the battle of the daily basic grind. It's doing the same thing every day and trying to feel joyful, because a lot of us are creatures of habit. We have to go to jobs, we have kids, whatever. Routine is a slow killer of the soul for a lot of us. And that's the battle we're facing. We're facing a lack of inspiration, or we're facing the slow, gradual wearing down of our enthusiasm for life itself. We might be facing the slow feeling of futility or boredom. We might be facing the slow grinding of our gears to the point where we just don't feel like we even care that much about our spirituality. These things happen in a much less dramatic, much slower, and sort of it's like death by a million paper cuts kind of struggle that we're facing. I find that is usually the battle, and the Jupiter-Uranus comes as a turning of the tide in that very mundane way. And what it does is it suddenly, the light breaks open, and all of a sudden we find that we have inspiration again. We have hope, we have enthusiasm, we have excitement. Something has captured our hearts and our imaginations, and it feels as though the tide is turning, the dawn is breaking, and maybe we didn't even know, because of that slow, gradual death by a million paper cuts, we didn't even know that we were in a dark place or in a boring place. We couldn't even tell. We were lulled to sleep, and we couldn't even tell that the fire had died down. Jupiter-Uranus comes, a log gets thrown on the fire, some friends show up, someone's got a guitar, there's apple cider, suddenly the spirit is in the air. Jupiter-Uranus is amazing in the way that it can show up and bring life back into our hearts, into our minds, into our relationships, into our work, into our vision for the future. Oh my God, I didn't even have a sense of, there was nothing exciting on the horizon. Now suddenly, a rainbow has appeared, and there is a sense of hope returning. Now, that does not mean that something specific is going to happen to make everything right, or to pull you out of every last difficulty in your life. But it can be, remember, conjunctions are the starting of a new cycle. This Jupiter-Uranus cycle takes, 14 years or so at times to come around again. So this is a cycle of inspiration that we haven't had for a long time, and it's starting fresh all over again. In some area of our birth chart, of course, relatively speaking, it may plant itself in one area of our lives and start developing there more than another. But this is the beginning of something that can start to provide us with a new vision, a new hope, a sense of breakthrough. And again, like I think of like the turning of the tide, a change of momentum, the breaking of the dawn. If it's been a dark day, then suddenly the clouds are opening and the sun is shining through. And there's that feeling of like, oh my God, yeah, it's been like cloudy for like 5 days. And I didn't even realize that I was sort of put to sleep by it. And now the dawn is breaking, and I can feel like the spirit coming in and enlivening everything, freeing things up. So this is characteristic of the Jupiter-Uranus experience. And it doesn't really matter. I mean, it does, but it's not as important what type of aspect it is. We start with the idea that this combination brings this kind of experience in general. And then we know that it's the seeding of a new cycle because it's a conjunction. So quite powerful in that sense. But the other thing you have to remember about the seeding of any cycle is that just like a pregnant woman doesn't know that she's pregnant for a little while, like she may have to miss her period. She then takes a test, maybe a couple days out. Well, I guess nowadays you can take it before you even miss your period, the tests or whatever. But you get what I'm saying. It's like, you may not even know. And then the world doesn't even see that you're pregnant for a while. Most people wait till it's a little bit safer into the first trimester or whatever. And then the woman starts showing to the world. And so that gestational period is part of what's indicated by a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. The light may break, the dawn may break, the tide may turn, but it's going to take a while for that seed that's being planted to bear fruit. You have to keep that in mind, because people will be really impatient and they'll develop too much expectation around the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, thinking that on that day or right at that time, everything is going to fall into place. No, a seed will be planted, and you can feel a sense of revolution in the air and opening and possibility, but it does take a while with the conjunction to express itself. So give it time. Number 2 is the rapid, sudden, surprising openings and expansion that takes place. This could be intellectually or spiritually. You have a very rapid period of accelerated growth intellectually. You start to understand something. You start to dive into astrology. I remember quite vividly when, well, I'll share this story, but I'm going to come around to some stories later. But it was a Jupiter-Uranus contact in my own natal chart that came about when I launched my astrology career, for example. There is like an enthusiasm and a passion that is, it's like rocket fuel. Suddenly, it's just, if you're into human design, if you're into tarot, if you're into whatever it is, yoga or any kind of spiritual discipline, you'll find that you are, through that spiritual practice or interest, that you are rapidly growing and developing and changing. So it has almost like a sudden random mutation effect in an evolutionary sense. There's a way in which we are surprised and almost like shocked by how quickly something is opening and expanding. Um, and that could be something subtle and psychological, emotional. It could be relational. It could be intellectual or philosophical or spiritual. It could be professional, financial. It could be openings around home or family, developments in your romantic relationship, developments in a partner's life. But notice the quality: rapid, sudden, surprising, and then that's the Uranian themes paired with the kind of optimistic opening and expanding of Jupiter. These are both in Venus ruled signs too. So in Taurus, right? So think also about things that are bodily, that are sensual, that are physical, that are maybe a little romantic and earthy, embodied, biological, agricultural, a concern or interest in pleasure, comfort, maybe even like sort of wealth, or not in a super materialistic way. I don't want to go down that path, but like sort of that quality of abundance. Like what makes for an abundant, secure, peaceful way of life, and not just in general, but sometimes more specifically in what, like, how can I optimize the feeling of stability, pleasure, peacefulness, ease, security, abundance at work or in love or in some area. But watch for these qualities that there's, it's like lightning, but rather than the tower card, it's like lightning bolts that drop, that are like striking with rainbows. It's like rainbow lightning strikes. So number 3, beneficial connections, unexpected epiphanies, and moments of profound liberation. Where there is stuck, stagnant, stubborn energy, you will find that there is a sudden willingness to move, expand, and change, or evolve, or get unstuck. And that is profoundly liberating and often quite unexpected. Then you see beneficial connections. Jupiter-Uranus strikes like lightning and connects us with benefactors. One of the meanings of the benefic designation of Jupiter in ancient astrology had to do with Jupiter rejoicing in the 11th house, which was called the house of good spirits and allies. So beneficial connections with positive people that that help us to get where we're going, that share aspirations in common with us. Another story I'll share: when Jupiter was opposite Uranus in when Uranus was in Aries and it was opposing my own Jupiter in Libra, Ashley and I met and launched our yoga studio, Sky House Yoga. That whole period, the back and forth of Uranus to my natal Jupiter, many times over, like 3 or 4 times it went back and forth, was the period in which we met, started working together, started dating, and then moved in and launched a yoga studio out of a house, which was really cool. It's called Sky House Yoga. This is really interesting how you'll meet. It could be a friend, it could be a lover, it could be a business partner, it could be both. But the positive, beneficial connections with other human beings that share similar hopes, dreams, visions of progress, is one of the wonderful things about Jupiter-Uranus. The beneficial connections that you make, even just to friends that are going to be more, closer to like a forever friend. Unexpected epiphanies, moments where you just suddenly become aware of something. Maybe it's an unconscious little blind spot within yourself, or it's some kind of shadow material, and suddenly you're just like, oh, wow, I see this so clearly. Unexpected epiphanies can come by way of psychedelic experiences, mystical experiences, altered states of consciousness, profound moments of breakthrough in healing or therapy of any kind, of any modality whatsoever. Moments where you've felt really stuck or held back by something heavy, something weighty, a responsibility, something that's made you feel restricted. Jupiter-Uranus is great for making you feel unrestricted and free. These are some of the brightest and most exciting qualities of Jupiter and Uranus. But remember, the seeding of the Jupiter-Uranus dynamic does not happen all at once, in the same way that conception does not mean birth, right? a seeding period that will take time to gestate. We have to learn how to see things in a process-oriented manner with slow-moving outer planetary connections. Otherwise, we will always be disappointed. And astrologers that amp the description of the transits up without making sure we talk about the process-oriented nature of the transit are setting people up to be like, man, that astrology overpromises and underdelivers. So remember, that's a thing. It's planting a seed this spring. And these qualities are part of that seed. Some of them may come very quickly, some of them may come in time. But watch for what's happening around that time, because what's happening is like the byproduct of the seeding. If you want to know what the seed is about, watch what's happening around that time and you'll get a feeling for it. And there probably will be some moments that you could describe in just these ways that will also happen around that time. But just to temper our expectations a little bit. So there are 3 things that make the transit pop that you can pay attention to in your natal chart. Number 1 is angularity. Is Taurus your 1st, 4th, 7th, or 10th whole sign house? That's really important because when the transit is angular, you tend to experience it as a more dynamic, sort of loud, vocal, strong archetypal event in your life. If not, it doesn't mean it's a nothing burger, but that's like one consideration, is that angularity will typically make it louder. If you're a fixed sign rising, then you've got this in one of your angles. Number 2, conjunction or aspect to natal planet, conjunction being the most powerful. If the Jupiter-Uranus dynamic, which is around 21 degrees of Taurus, happens to be conjoined within 3 degrees to a natal planet, say from 19 to about 24 or 5 Taurus, then you're in business. That's going to be pretty loud. If it opposes something in Scorpio or squares something in Aquarius or Leo around those same degrees, you're also in business. It's going to be a little louder. If it's trining something in Capricorn or Virgo, a little bit louder. And then you could look at the sextiles as well to Pisces or Cancer around the 21st degree. I would want it to be pretty exact with the sextile because they're not super loud aspects in general. And then I would say that if you have any kind of aspect to natal planets, you want to look at the significations of the natal planet, the house it's in, or the houses that it rules by, topically, to think those are the topics that are going to be activated and will likely connect to the archetypes of Jupiter-Uranus that we've described today. Number 3 would be, just being in the habit of tracking transits. If you're someone who pays attention to transits and looks and watches for the signs in the sky manifesting in your life, you are in the habit that is going to lead you to, you'll be more likely to appreciate and notice the transit showing up in your life. It's just a simple truth that if you don't really pay attention to, and you don't have to have a journal, but I recommend it, a journal or even just a way, like people or places that where you can reflect upon the transit. This is why I highly recommend, by the way, our Roots and Spheres course, which starts in January, which is a monthly moon circle where we track the transits of the month together. We also diet plants that work well with the energies of the month. That's a great place because then you're being encouraged to do different kinds of journaling and rituals, and you're meeting in community to discuss and share your experiences of the transit. And that is a way that will heighten your sensitivity. You can pick that up, by the way, through the Kickstarter if you want. It's on sale there through the Kickstarter. It begins in January. The full price will be on the website in January, but you get a pretty good discount, a couple $100s off through the Kickstarter. So check it out. But anyway, being in the habit of tracking your transits is a great idea because then you're going to notice things. Any astrological event is going to be a little bit more apparent. In the same way that, like, if you're someone who does meditation, you're going to notice when your breath is starting to increase and you're getting anxious and the style or like the nature of your breathing is changing. You'll notice it more because you're someone who's taught yourself to notice your breathing. It's the same thing with astrological transits. If you don't take time to reflect upon what ends up happening and you only just take in the information and then just kind of think about what may or may not happen to you and get excited or depressed if good or bad things happen or don't happen or whatever, if that's the only level at which we engage, it's much harder to actually track transits, because transits aren't just about telling us, are we going to get something we want or get something we don't want? They're about helping us develop a reflective relationship with life and experience itself. If we don't engage with astrology in that way, it's actually a lot harder to notice and receive the gifts of the transit. So my humble advice is to be in something of a habit of tracking your transits, even if it's just listening to this channel regularly and it helps you to be in a reflective practice. That's plenty. Okay, anyway, there's 5 stories that I want to share with you from client practice. These are transits of, well, we should say transiting Uranus in the sky, making a conjunction, square, or opposition to a natal Jupiter. So when that happens, here are 5 stories that I plucked from my client practice. I've sort of anonymized, made them anonymous, and shifted a little bit of the details to make sure that we protect anonymity. But these are the stories. Now, there's a lot more of them. So like I said, I kind of cherry picked because you always have to do that if you want to illustrate, okay, these stories really are great examples of the archetypes we're talking about today. I have lots of clients whose stories haven't been as vivid or sparkly or whatever. So it's important to note that not everyone experiences a Uranus transit in some kind of cosmic lottery that you've won or whatever. But anyway, here they are. Number 1, client was inspired by a travel abroad experience to return to graduate school and change career paths. Might sound like a simple thing, but this person had a travel experience in a different country, a different culture that made a significant impact on their heart and on their mind. And what they did with that experience was they realized, I want to change careers. And so they went back to school. That is exactly what we're talking about. The turning of the tide, rapid, sudden openings, unexpected epiphanies, moments of profound liberation. This person felt stuck in their career. Suddenly they felt inspired again. They had a clear sense of a different direction they wanted to go in. The opportunity presented itself to go back to graduate school. And so off they went. Number 2, client had their first psychedelic experience into adulthood, but this is someone who's well into adulthood. Client had their first psychedelic experience and decided to join a yoga teacher training program for personal development. Now that might sound like a simple thing, kind of a cliched thing, everyone takes yoga teacher training programs or something. But as someone who, with Ashley, led many yoga teacher training programs at our yoga studio, I can tell you that for many people who go through a yoga teacher training program, essentially what they're doing is they are downloading a life practice and a spiritual, a toolkit spiritually that will be there with them for the rest of their life. And many people do it not to be professionals, but to just change and grow spiritually and to give themselves a set of tools that they can use for the rest of their life. So for this person, this was a profound moment of spiritual awakening through a ceremonial psychedelic experience, which they never thought they would do something like that. So it was like a big deal for them. And then all of a sudden they're doing yoga and off they are to the New Age circus. Welcome. Welcome. We're all a strange and kooky bunch and you are quite welcome here. So anyway, this was a really big opening for this individual. And I think it was super characteristic of Uranus transiting their natal Jupiter. Number 3, client's husband got a major promotion. Their income suddenly skyrocketed. I thought this was interesting because this was Uranus transiting in an opposition from their 2nd house to Jupiter in their 8th. So that financial access and it pinging into the area of spouse or husband's financial dynamics in the 8th, right? So Uranus opposite Jupiter, husband gets a major promotion and their income goes way up dramatically. It's a nice, it doesn't happen like that all the time, but that's a great example where there's a sudden opening, a rapid, sudden period of growth and expansion. This one happened to be financial. It wasn't even for them. It was for their spouse's career, but that's pinging off from a Jupiter in the 8th. Number 4, client's very challenging father who had been an alcoholic and overall not great presence in their life for a variety of reasons, died during this transit. This was to a Jupiter in the 4th, which is a place of home, family, parents. And in ancient astrology, the 4th was also often given to the father. So this was a Uranus opposition, but it was, again, to a Jupiter in the 4th house. And they experienced this they described it as the single biggest relief of their life, felt like a brand new person, not because they wished anything bad upon their father, but because sometimes that's what happens when people in our lives pass who we carry very heavy relationships with, an ancestral and family karma. When they pass, sometimes with no malice in our hearts, it still feels like a big relief. And I see that quite frequently from clients even like parents that they completely love and are very sad to see go, but maybe they've been caretaking for a long time, that it can still feel like you're setting down a cross that you've been carrying. That's actually another way of describing Jupiter-Uranus would be like, let's lay down this cross that we've been carrying. It's time for relief and release. Number 5, client with a long series of poor relationship choices finally met someone stable, sober, with similar spiritual values that they ended up marrying. Now, I think this is interesting because Jupiter-Uranus can also mark the breakthrough in a karmic pattern. I've been doing something the same old way and getting stuck in the same old ways because of my own, unconscious material, so to speak, or my own shadow. And the karmic circuitry is being broken open and a new pattern is starting. And there's a kind of liberation or release from an old cycle of like karmic bondage. Fantastic expression of Uranus to Jupiter in the natal chart. So those that happened to be a very positive experience for that client. Anyway, these are, I think, again, pretty typical stories. I see a lot of stories like this when you have Jupiter-Uranus interactions in a natal chart, though transiting Uranus to natal Jupiter seems to be stronger. The transiting Jupiter to natal Uranus, for whatever reason, I haven't noticed. It just doesn't seem to pop as much, at least in my experience, but that's not a rule or anything. I'm just telling you what I've seen. So I hope that this is useful for you today. Don't forget before you leave, we need your help. If you like this channel, if this channel is helping you on your spiritual journey, there are 70,000 unique subscribers across all of our different platforms, at least. We need a small percentage, 1,777 of you who say, you know what, I really love this channel. I appreciate the dedication, the work, and I'm going to support the team. I'm going to support Adam. I'm going to support Ashley, or I'm going to support this good work that they do to provide this content. We really appreciate that because this is a project that really relies on all of you to make it work. So many of the things we do rely on this kind of magical reciprocal exchange between people out there who say, we value this, so we're going to pitch in and support your work and your project and the need-based tuition and your team of like everything. So this is our goal is to get to 1,777 backers. You can find the link to the Kickstarter where is it? Here it is. You can find the link to the Kickstarter in the description of this video or in the comments. We pin it to the top. Click on it. Pick up 50% off one of my online courses, or pick up 75% off if you bundle 3 or 4 of them together out of the 6 programs that we offer. You can use them anytime. They don't expire. You can transfer one if you want to gift one and keep a couple for yourself. You can pick up a lot of other videos that we make and readings that we offer. So we try to say thank you as well for supporting the channel. And we hope that you'll help us meet our goal by the end of the year. And thank you so much to everyone who's already donated. All right, that's it for today. See you again tomorrow. Bye.